Carnivalesta's redesign is now complete, and wow, is it way more detailed than it has ever been before. Especially when you compare Screenshot 23 when I first released Carnivalesta. Yeah, this is miles ahead of that. You might also remember that one 40-minute video where I go about detailing each and every single one of these stands. This video is pretty much going to replace that. You might also be noticing this huge amount of time that remains. It's actually based on the absolute maximum possible for which a level can be allotted for. Any level, actually, at that. So, then, well, what's going on? Well, I'm going to be changing the format of that one video a little bit, or at least the basic design of it. And I'm going to be covering all the main essentials. And then I'll be explaining all the individual rides and stuff and whatnot. First thing you'll probably notice when you first play this particular world, the first level in it, is 43rd Annual, July 1 to 31 of 2073, Carnivalesta. Yes, Platform Masters takes place 60 years into the future. And this is Carnivalesta, hence the carnival-like atmosphere to the place. So, what else is there? You might be noticing, what is with these little odd dark gray spots? This is actually a washer with a bolt in it that secures it to these little light poles, which are to, so like if there's a 50-mile-an-hour wind gust or whatnot, yeah, that will pretty much minimize some damage. And not to mention, sorry, classified contents. Don't you love it when you see that? Yeah, and that's because, well, it's... the only thing I'm going to say about it is that it has something to do with this game's story. Ain't going to say any more. You might also be noticing these light poles with the flag spanning across them in this spectrum-like format. You'll probably notice that spectrum is present in a lot of places. And that's part of the reason I have all this around in the spectrum form, because this uses it, this Jewel Mania thing uses it, the flags use it, even these animated lights out here that you've probably been noticing for a while, even those use it. So what else is there? Well, I need to go up to show you some of the other details that I have, and yes, the rides are in motion. Let's see, I'm going to take the green one. And just look how far out those stands go. Wow, that is so much more. And yes, you're probably very familiar with what this object is. That is an air taxi. You'll find those all over the place. There's another one here, another one here. Yes, I have layered the air taxis like I've done with others. There's even some out in the distance. You might also be wondering, what is with these lights out here? I'll cover that next, because that's what my next area is. Or my next covered part is. I need to stop the bouncing. Going up. Now I need to land somewhere. And I missed it. Just a little bit short. So, what's with all this out here now that you can see them a lot better? This is actually traffic, much like you see in Keverin Desert and Runisa Plains when I get there, and various other worlds. You might notice that some of these have this odd little orange-like area on them, and most of them don't. Well, these with the odd orange areas are actually semis. That's how small they have shrunken down to, which is kind of the reason why I don't include cars in the rawness and whatnot, because they're just so far away that they're hard to make out. But here you can see the obvious lights here against the backdrop of these mountains, not to mention the cities and stuff all over them. But what's this over here? Well, I'm going to explain that right now, when I get over far enough for better viewing, at high speed too. Gotta love those high speeds. This is actually an 8-story hotel. This is not the shadow that it's casting, it's actually where the main ground area itself is, but a limitation in 2D and having to watch the draw count kind of makes that almost not really worth it, which is why a lot of things don't have any side objects like the buildings and houses. But that aside, you generally get the idea. Yep, lots of cars going by. There's actually train tracks out here that also happen to have maglev freight trains going by on them. They're not present right now, but they should be coming in almost any moment. Right there, I see it. See the maglev freight train there? Of course, it jumped a little too high. That's because I calibrated everything for effective, fast maneuvering. That was too high. I'll just make use of a bounce there, and here you go. There's the maglev freight train. You can see the cars a little bit better. You can actually see the lines on the road here, too. And on that hotel, that's what that white building there is, you can actually see handicap parking areas noted by the blue areas right next to the building. And that's the main part of what I otherwise have for that middle ground, not to mention all those ponds out there too that are pretty common sights to see. So what am I doing now? I'm trying to show you the really, really high parts. Oh, that was nice. How high am I going? Really high. How high? Well, you'll see in a moment. Am I noticing that this looks a little bright compared to this over here? This is actually because these mountains are ice-capped. And you might also notice the clouds right there look, well, I'm in the clouds, now I'm above them. Quite a realistic view in a way. And it also looks oddly bright right there. Why is this so bright? Well, that's actually because there's actually a city there. Hersiak, in case you're wondering. You can see all the cities and little villages all along these mountains that actually get harder and harder to see the little individual lights because of so much distance. You can see air taxis at all kinds of levels. And if you look real closely, you can actually see a little dome right there. That's actually sky glow caused from Hersiak. Where am I going? I'm after another area to show you one of my most liked parts of this particular design that I made. Except it's a long ways over. And I mean a long ways over. One thing you might be noticing, it's rather bright looking over here, but it's not so over here. You can see the obvious contrast here, but there's like nothing there. There was actually a problem I had before with that because I didn't have everything, I didn't have the ground decals there, but now that I do, you can actually see how well everything now fits in with that, and you can actually see the contrast between the bright and the dark. Here's a far-looking air taxi. I don't think that's far. How far do I have to go, you might be wondering? Well, it's actually almost triple this distance that I've gone from the very start. This is my position in coordinate units, which is 1 pixel in the foreground, basically. And this is the speed in coordinate units per frame. 1 frame is this much. And of course I also have cycles, which is the finest unit of distance that I go with, or time. So yeah, there's a great degree of precision in a lot of stuff in Platform Masters. That really makes it separate. Not to mention getting so high above everything in a 2D platformer. Who's ever heard of a game that gets this high? Not to mention going way higher that it takes the speed of light 87 years to reach the limit. Okay, that really says a lot. Actually, it's 43.5 years before loopback starts happening. You might also be noticing the starry sky out here too. Well, this will get some slight changes to it. What are the changes that are going to be made? Well, once I get the overworld finished and I begin to know the exact latitude of Carnivalesta, I can then remap the stars. But there is one thing that's going to guarantee it anyway. I want to get the higher visibility, higher magnitude stars visible, a little bit more visible. I have 5.75 as the magnitude threshold. I want to raise it to like 6.25 or just 6. It ain't much of a difference, but it is noticeable. Almost there. I'm actually 32 kiloblocks from the start, and still counting. Yeah, 32 kiloblocks. That's an awful lot when you think about it. And it's actually right about there. Now I just need to come to a complete stop, and I should be pretty much about there. I actually planned out some of this in detail. I might be wondering, when am I going to be covering the stands and stuff that are present? That is actually pretty close right now. You might be wondering, what did I just hit? There's actually a hidden platform I deliberately placed there. And there's actually a reason for that. If I can stop bouncing, I'll show you. Yeah, I bounced right above the clouds again. Isn't Carnivalesta just so pretty with all these glittering lights? Well, they're not really glittering, but yeah, you can easily see all the rich detail they put into everything. But if you look right in here, hey, what's this red and blue flashing thing? That looks interesting. That's actually a cop car that's got a minivan pulled over. It's got hazard lights blinking. Yeah, that's right, hazard lights blinking. It's really, really hard to see at this particular resolution without full screen, because, well, my monitor is 144 dpi, and that's only one pixel that you're almost looking at, and it's not too strong on contrast either. But if you look real closely, you can see the hazard lights blinking, but you can see the animated flashing lights on the cop car. It's broken down minivan here. It's not being pulled over for speeding. Speeding is almost a thing of the past in this kind of time, because all the cars are automated. So yeah, you don't have to worry about getting pulled over by the cops. They're mainly there to protect. Yeah, this long platform sure goes over a ways, don't it? See all the air taxis going by, and right here's the edge of it. The character will be darkening along with it, but I need to redo them before that, and I only intend on redoing them after I get all the rest of the scenery done. Hey, that was a freight train going by right there. Just now noticed that. So, what do you think about Carnivalesta's new design? You might also be wondering what all the other parts in the scenery look like. I was looking forward to that, except I'm too high, so I'm going to drop down a little bit. And here you can see the edge of the carnival grounds right there. You can see a little big pond right here, basically. It's kind of more of a small lake, and it's actually lit up from the lights over here. It's kind of hard to see it, but it's barely there. Hey, what do you know? Both freight trains going by. That was interesting. So what about all the other objects? Well, I'm going to be covering that now. Except I need to get all the way back to the beginning. And one thing I tend to frequently forget about, you might be noticing that this is not red anymore. That's because it's functioning, but I have a very strange problem going on. I'll have to explain that a little bit later in another video. But for now, I want to make use of jump to level location and move character. I always forget about that. I don't know why, but I do. So now I'm right back to the very beginning. So what am I going to be doing now? I'm going to be covering the various rides in detail now. So what's to be covered? First, wouldn't you know it, I went over too early, to the left too early. Of course I could have used the yellow spring, but that's a different subject. But I want to show you this roller coaster in much more detail now, since I'm at that phase of this video. Brakes. Puffs will be, little dust clouds will be appearing behind when I get to that. But you might notice Island Glider and these animated lights. If you look at it very closely, it goes red, yellow, green, blue, magenta, white. Always in that same order. These ones out here are pretty much the same way, along with these way out over here. This, yeah, you could think of dazzling lights, in a way. Yeah, that's basically all the roller coaster is. You basically get board the roller coaster right inside the island. Where's the roller coaster at? I'm not going to be adding one in, because it's really complicated to do. And I mean, it's really complicated. But it is actually possible. It's just really difficult to do. To get it to climb up here, then I have to figure out the physics of it trailing along here like this, going around the loop-de-loop that I got, the egg-shaped one. And then, of course, it falls along here for various ups and downs. And, of course, it actually repeats indefinitely. And, of course, all these islands out here are pretty much kind of similar, although some of them you actually go through the island at high speed. It's called Island Glider for one thing. It's themed after Bermudan Islands, or at least the Bermudan Archipelago, which is where Worlds 7, 8, and 19 take place in. Of course, it's just really simple detail with cheap-looking water texture. It's just painted billboards and stuff like that, nothing really special. Train going by again, you'll find plenty of those. So what about the other rides? That's what I'm going to be covering next, except I need to go down so you can get a better vantage point of them. Explorer is based off the 1001 Knots ride. It just goes around in circles doing G-forces and stuff. Might be wondering what this fading thing is all about. Well, this is actually based on the half block for height. This is how high you are in half blocks. A half block is the size of the square. Yeah, it's not going in reverse. This one square in the platforms here is exactly a half of a block. One block is the thickness of this platform, in case you're wondering on that. This one's starting to get into motion. Of course, it's been like that for some time now. It's basically like that swings that go around in circles. When it speeds up more like that, the swings go out more. And when it slows down, they come inward more. That's basically all that is. This ride looks a little strange, though. What's going on with it? After all, it's connected right here, but it's not connected right here. But there is a sign that kind of hints at problems. Sorry, out of order. Don't you love it when you go to a theme park and you see that? Yeah, I know. Spring Bouncer, if I remember the name of this, but it's kind of hard to tell with this resolution that I basically have. What's this one? I remember this one as Haunted House. It's basically one of those sheets on wires for ghosts, hidden speakers for scary sounds, and some workers or whatnot in costumes with phosphorus paint or something to create the walking skeletons and maybe some zombies along with it. That's basically all that is, but you have to remember, this is 60 years into the future. You might be wondering what might be present, or things might be like back that far into the future. Well, the most dominant ride that you'll see in pretty much every area and every level you'll see is this, the Hero Wheel. It's a Ferris wheel, basically, and it's themed around the Ferris wheel, or color wheel, I mean. If you notice that it goes around in circles, red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, magenta, just like that. This spoke is based on what passes up here. This one's a little more complicated, but it's, well, you remember that animated GIF that I made quite a while ago, Ferris Wheel and Clouds? Well, I exactly copied that with this, except instead of having a limited color palette, I now have full flexibility in what I can do. And trust me, I really put great use into it. After all, you can see that there's a gradient going from this kind of a dark gray to a really, really dark gray. That's because there's no lighting up there. This lighting is from the cabins, of which is blocking this part of it. You know, those little gondolas that passengers ride in. And speaking of which, this is actually going around in exactly half of pi miles per hour. Take pi, 3.14159265358979932, as far as I memorize it, and divide that by 2, and that's exactly the speed at which this is going around. I wasn't even aiming for anything like that kind of coincidence. It just happened out of nowhere, basically. I wasn't even aiming for it. It just came as a coincidence when I was calculating speeds and stuff. All I did was just set this to the maximum size I have for the array, which is 3.5 megabytes for the 12 frames of animation I have. And notice here it says 72 blocks tall. BL means blocks. Remember, that's the thickness of the platform right here. That's one block. Not to mention your usual enter and exit areas. Sometimes it can be a real pain to find these entrances in theme parks. It's often one of my biggest complaints is that they're hard to find. What's this one? I want to get to a little bit better position for it because I got those light poles in the way. But here you can see it a lot better now. This one's called Mud Battlers. It's basically, you got these controlled robots, you got little joysticks or whatnot inside the machine, and you also got other buttons for attack, where the machine picks up a bunch of mud in the little pool of mud that's present, and they just throw it at each other. And of course you have your shields too that you can make use out of to block the mud. However, if you end up not putting your shield up, you end up getting mud splattered all over you. You do have to wear goggles for this, of course, to protect the eyes. But what about the rest of you? There's a little wash-off area over here, a small little pool, and you might expect that gets changed frequently. What's this, mini Platform Masters? Well, this is Platform Masters for the general public, because not everyone can jump this high. Yeah, that's almost 15 feet, in case you're wondering. Okay, I'll do a cycle advance, and it should be about here. Okay, this is how high he reaches. That's height above sea level, in case you're wondering. And it goes to there. So just to give you an idea on how high it jumps, it's about 14.7 feet, roughly. So that's basically what all the rides are all about. All this is for the general public to go follow a Platform Masters course. You got a little start platform here and a goal platform here. Basically follow the course, going up here like this, following this down, making some jumps and whatnot over here, grabbing fake jewels and stuff, and figuring out how to get to the goal platform. And you gotta do it quickly, just like the real Platform Masters, because if time runs out, you lose a life. Of course, with this much time, you almost don't even have to worry. And if you do end up falling, you got this nice refreshing pool of water to protect you from the big fall. Because not everyone can fall like this. Not to mention impact at such great speeds. So, what else is there then? The only thing really left to cover now are pretty much the dominant things. Yes, I would have lost a life there from getting crushed. But I don't have that functionality in because I need to redo the character first. So what's with all this? Well, these are all the various stands that you can see. I'm just going by them just so you can get a quick idea on what there is. Sure is a lot of stands, huh? Except I want to get it so that I don't have any of the hills in the way. Yeah, I'm going so fast that it's ridiculous. So I'm going to start with, let's see, where should I start? I'll just start with this one, donuts. I'm going to move over here and look up so you can get a better viewpoint of it. And from here, I'm going to be explaining the various stands. This is what's going to dominate this video. The donut stand involves donuts, obviously. And here you'll find 2 stoves for cooking the donuts, fryers basically. Except these are not just simply stoves. It's actually some kind of combination utility that deep fries things, cooks hot dogs, even doing barbecues and special, all kinds of things. It's way more advanced than any stove we've got now. Remember, Platform Masters takes place 60 years from now. And for a single donut, it costs 60 egani. Now, if you want any, that's just for a plain donut, though. What's egani, you might be wondering? It's the monetary unit for Platform Masters. If you want extra toppings on there, which includes things like sprinkles, your icing, which includes things like chocolate, butterscotch, etc., that will cost you an extra 10 egani. So how does that compare to US dollars, you might be wondering, since US dollars is the only thing I really know, because that's where I'm from. And that's why you see mile an hour and feet for your distance units. Coordinate units is actually unique to the game, which is really nothing special. The derivation of coordinate units actually comes from an animation creation. It's the speed at which, if you're going 1 mile an hour and 1/10 of a second, which is the limit of animated GIFs in pretty much most browsers, or at least at the time, 2002, you know, everything is limited to 10 frames per second. But that aside, that's where this all comes in at. Clown Dunk is a Carnival classic. Basically, you pay 30 egani and you get 3 balls. So where's the clown at? Well, it's after hours, so you're not going to see him there. He's not in business right now. It's too late in the day. After all, why else would there be stars at 25° north latitude? Yeah, 25° north latitude, that's right. Well, that's actually about where I'm expecting it to be. It might change to be like 18 at the lower end. It might be up to 30 at the higher end. I have yet to decide on that. But the object of the game is pretty much just like the original Carnival Classic. You take the ball and you throw it at the target. If you hit the target, this little platform here dips down and the clown that's on top takes a big splash. Because hit the targets for a big splash. Yep, hit, because that's what you gotta hit. You get 3 tries for up to 3 different splashes at once. It's actually Lake Keverin in the background, in case you're wondering. You might recognize one of the sailboats here. What else is there? No, that's pretty much all there is for that particular one. Corn Dogs is, well, a Carnival classic in a way. You can get a regular sized one, which is 4 coordinate units long. That's 4 pixels in the foreground, or which is also where 4 pixels would be in here. And you can get that for 100 igani. Or you can get a quarter block, which is twice as long, for 160 igani. Oh yeah, 1 igani is basically 2 cents in today's times. Of course, so 50 igani would be $1. So basically a regular corn dog is $2, which is very typical of carnivals, where everything is way overpriced. Which is why I avoid things there, period. Except the rides. Those are always worth it. Now this one is one of my top favorites as far as the banner up here. Barbecue Haven. What's so special about it? Well, I loved the way this flame came out. It was way better than I was actually expecting. It was totally awesome. And then some. You might be wondering what this ball is all about. And I'll be covering that in a little bit. But like those ovens that you saw in those other ones, well, here they are. They're the same thing, except these ones are designed to do barbecuing kind of things. They got that same functionality. You can get all kinds of various meals. In one meal, I can't really read this, and you probably have to zoom in, but if you want some, think of a typical thing you might barbecue, like burgers, steaks, hot dogs, and so forth, pork, ribs. Yeah, anything you can think of that you'll typically barbecue, you'll find on here. And you'll find it available. However, there's one thing I want you to note. It does cost, I think that's 70 igani, but I can't really read it, or it's 120. It's hard to tell. You'll have to take a screenshot and zoom in to really see it. Or look at my screenshots in my screenshot archive. Of course, that's kind of hard to tell. Or play the game when I release it in 2 so years. The next one is Soda Pop City. This is basically kind of a classic big city kind of thing with small skyscrapers going off at weird angles and whatnot. Little big soda pops here with the straws and ice. Soda Pop City casting shadows. You might be wondering, why don't these have shadows? Well, it's technical limitations and other kinds of things like that. But the specialty of this is homemade style root beer. You can get 4 cubic coordinate units. You probably can, it's kind of hard to comprehend that, but it's 1.76 inches by 1.76 inches by 1.76 inches. Yeah, that's about 4 cubic coordinate units, which is kind of about the typical size of a small drink, give or take. That will cost you 50 igani. You can get a medium, which is 8 cubic coordinate units, for 80 or 90. I'm not sure which that is. I think it's 90. Or you can get a large that's 12 cubic coordinate units for 120 igani. Which in a way is actually a little on the cheap side compared to most carnivals. But it's really the only drink stand there is. Well, not quite the only drink stand. When I saw lava ladders after I got all the fine-tuning and stuff done, I was really impressed. Basically, you pay 40 igani in an attempt to get from up here, start, cross this ladder, but it's not any ordinary ladder, and get to the goal over here. And of course you got your little ladder to go down. Not real lava, but boy, that really looks so real, don't it? It's themed after, can you guess? Mount Sentusia. This is only World 9 when Mount Sentusi is actually World 13. So it's actually your first hint to the existence of Mount Sentusi, but by this you really can't tell. It's a little hidden detail. You might be noticing the odd shadows right here. It's like, why is this in shadow when this up here is not? Well, that's actually because this part here is in the front. That's in the front. This is in the back. This is actually part where this is almost at. Close to it, but not quite. You can kind of tell the difference right here in the shadowing on this side. But this ladder, well, you remember those little ladders where it's kind of like a rope ladder, and when you get on it, it starts twisting around. If you get to the goal, you win a prize. But chances are you're going to fall. And if you fall into, not lava, a mat. A nice, safe, cool to the touch mat. It's, well, pretty much harmless. You know, now, for one of my favorite stands, because it's funny, is ball toss. You get 3 balls for 160 Agani, or 5 ball for 250 Agani. Yeah, $5 for one thing. It seems a little like on the expensive side. So how does this work? Well, on each of these little boxes there are switches. If you throw the ball onto the boxes or into the area where they are and attempt to hit the switch, the lower ones score more points because there's also a bigger switch, and their ball, if you miss up here, is going to end up hitting it. So yeah, you have to be pretty precise on your throws. There's a net in the background, if you can kind of see that, kind of things behind it. They're a little blurred out a little bit. But if you hit the red one, it's 1 point. The yellow is 2, the green is 5, the blue is 10, and the magenta is 20. Okay, see how that works? And if you score 25 points, you win a small prize, which is probably only like a 20 Agani item or something, really cheap. 50 for the medium-sized price, which is a little more expensive, maybe like 100 Agani. Large is bigger yet, costing maybe 200 Agani. And then the extra large, if you get a perfect with a 5, and that's like 400 Agani. So you can actually earn more than what the item is actually worth. But you'd have to be such a great shot at aiming for that to actually be done. And one thing about that particular stand, notice this ball right here, and the ball way up here, not to mention one on top of the ice cream stand. And how did this ball get up in here, lodged in with the letters? You gotta wonder on that. And you'll also find balls hidden out in these tables out here, which I forgot to cover earlier. Yes, there are tables out here because not everyone can get to a platform that's 50 feet in the air without climbing a whole bunch of steps or whatnot. So they have to have a place to eat, and that's what these tables are all about. It just adds a lot more detail out into the main field in a way. So where else all the balls out on those? It's kind of hard to see, but you have to look real closely. You can find them, they're mostly on the ground, but you can find, ooh, there's one right there. You can see a ball right there. And there's another one right over here too. You can see how that, there's another one over here. How did that one get over there? Yeah, it's kind of funny in a way. But that's what I love about the ball toss stand. Balls are scattered all over the place. There's actually 256 balls placed around. How many can you find? Next one, cotton candy. That's a Carnival classic, wouldn't you think? You can get a small, I don't exactly remember the measurements, but it's probably like 4 cubic coordinate units or something. That's 50 Agani, which is $1 in today's times, basically, with a conversion. You can get a medium, twice as big, for 90, or you can get a large, which is twice as big as a medium, for 160. You might notice seeing that these got regular discounts. Flavors available: cherry, orange, lemon, lime, blueberry, grape, and I think that's strawberry for the magenta. Yeah, I really go into a lot of detail, don't I? The ice cream stand actually has 2 different parts to it. First, you have the cones, which is where all these ice cream dispensers are, and you got 2 for vanilla, 2 for chocolate, and 2 for a combination of both, much like your Dairy Queen twist cones that I like getting every now and then. And of course the other variety is the slush, which has the same 7 flavors in the same order. You might be familiar with that same order. Notice the spectrum again. Notice the spectrum on this one too. Yep, everything here is based on the spectrum in some form or another. For here you can get all kinds of various sizes of cones. I think there's a small, medium, and large. I think the large is 120 for Igani. This one's an 80 and a 50 or something. I don't remember the exact numbers. But the cones are based on cubic coordinate units or something. I don't remember. Same thing with the slushes, but... Alright, wait. The ice cream is actually based on scoops or seconds. It's based on seconds now that I think about it. So, small is 2 seconds, and it's I think that's a 60 Igani. It's hard for me to tell. The medium is 3 seconds, and the large is 5 seconds of the dispensers running. Of course, it's got all kinds of switches on there for selecting the exact amount, plus that can be configured at the manager level. Yeah, there's all kinds of details I go into, don't I? High Flying Darts is one of those barker stands. This is Carnivalesta viewed from high above. Here's Hersiak, that town that you probably remember from way up there. Well, basically what you do is you pay 80 Igani and you get 3 darts. Or is it 5 darts? Well, either way, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to throw the darts and pop the balloons. That's a classic carnival thing, wouldn't you think? But there's more to it than just that. You cannot hit a city. If you hit a city, you lose. All. You get no prize, even if you get 2 more that would otherwise score a point. You would just flat out lose. So, avoid the cities, and just hit the balloons. The balloons in the sky up here, where stars are fine, they don't contribute anything. These are worth 1 point. Those that are on the ground, more risky, are 2 points. If you earn enough points, you will win a prize. Small prize is 2 and a large is 5. Now, every 2-year-old's just gonna love to go to one of these to get those balloons. Well, that's what this stand's all about. It's pretty much the same as what it was before, just some minor adjustments here and there. We will make any custom shape. So if you want a balloon that's wrapped around in the shape of a heart, or another one that's wrapped around in the shape of a dog or a monkey, or anything you want, basically, they'll do it. Regular balloon, which really nothing special, cost you 20 Igani. Really cheap in a way, especially for a carnival. But, yeah, it's still on the expensive end. Or you can get a custom-made one for 50 Igani, because it takes more time and effort to do it. Supply and demand, basically, is all it is. This is the longest of the stands, and also one of the more detailed ones. You remember from my site, my main site, where I have explained a game called Race to the Center, an archery kind of game. Well, that's basically what this is, where it revolves around. It's just been slightly adjusted and other things. There's actually 4 different areas in here. There's 4 different targets for 4 different colors. There's a red, green, yellow, and blue. Red, green, yellow, and blue. The number here indicates how many hits have been made on this particular part of the goal area. There's actually 5 different colors based on the exact same order as the standard archery target, where you have white, black, blue, red, and yellow for the bullseye. So what's the whole point of this? Well, basically, you start with the outermost part. It's called Race to the Center for a reason. If you throw the ball or shoot a dart, or I don't remember exactly how it was that I had it planned for this, but if you hit this part right here 3 times, you'll then move to the next innermost one, in which this little indicator will update that. Black is represented with a dark gray color, in case you're wondering, because you can't have a black light. That's physically impossible. you might be wondering on those other black lights that you often see advertised. Well, that's actually ultraviolet, and you can still actually see them because it's technically not black. There is no such thing as black light. Black is absence of light. But either way, 3 more hits on the black, 3 more hits on the blue, 3 more on the red, and when you get the 3 on the bullseye, you win. But only if you're the first to get to that center, the 3 hits on the bullseye. And that's basically how you win. And you got these handy little indicators. They're actually riders on horses here. You can see the winner, red. You can see the red right here. It's on the yellow, and it's got 3 hits on the bullseye. And it's right here. Now consider the yellow one over here, which is what this is. The yellow's in the front, the red's in the front, that's over here. If you want to look at your competitors, you got these over here as well. So you can see how they're coming. You can now see that the green's really close. So it's actually kind of a close game here, except for the yellow's way behind. This one's only on the red, and it's only made 1 hit on the red. So yeah, that's basically how the horse is positioned. It's got these little pegs right here. There's 15 total out to the finish line. That's basically how that one works. One game costs you 200 Igani, and you have to have 4 participants before the game can actually start. Or you can also do it solo and race against the clock. You have 2 minutes you have to get it within 2 minutes for a large. This is where the bow comes in, basically. The bow and arrow, just a simple little bow and arrow in a way. You have 3 minutes for a medium and 5 minutes for a small. Of course, if you come in first, you win a large prize, a guaranteed large prize giveaway. Medium is second, a guaranteed as well. And small is third. Now, every carnival place is going to have these in some form or another. Maps, info, history about Carnivalesta, something about a championship. You can file problem reports, all kinds of things. Learn about the Midway, which is way out here at the roller coaster tracks, and not to mention this obvious thing that stands out. Well, if you want to get some information about Carnivalesta, this is where you need to go. Not to mention a ball over here. I wonder what that's doing way over there. Look how far that is from the stand over here. How did that get way over there? That's really something. I need to go over a little more. Jewel Mania is another theme on Platform Masters. All this is you pay 150 Igani for 5 rings. But, as a new feature that this one supposedly has, you can pay an extra 50 Igani to get an extra chance. You only get 1 though. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to throw rings around these gems, which is basically the same jewels you see in the main levels themselves, except these are much smaller in size. Rather big, but still, they're still small compared. Put that aside. Throw a ring around the blue one, you score 1 point. The green is 2. Yellow is 5. Red is 10. If you score enough points, you win prizes. You get a small prize if you score 15 points. You get a medium prize if you score 25 points. A large if you score 35 points. And an extra large if you score 50 points. So yeah, if you get all 5 rings down around here, you don't even have to pay for this extra chance, because it ain't going to do you any good because you already got a guaranteed extra large. Of course, this prize might be only like 250 Igani or something, but getting all 5 rings around here, that's really going to be quite a challenge. Of course, you also got your yellow ones that are worth 5 points that do help at least, if you really need to push that last little bit. Because there's more yellows. Only 1 red. Video arcade. Well, this is basically where you get all kinds of video games. And immersive play, video games, chance-based things where you got dice and cards. You got your flight simulator kinds of things where you can go fight each other in flight combat kind of things like World War II kind of was. 64 fun games costing just 5 to 20 Igani for each round. So if you want to go do a flight simulator kind of thing for a few minutes, yeah, you might pay just 5 Igani for that, which is really cheap in a way. It's a lot cheaper than even today's most arcades. which are normally 25 and something. But hey, computing power 20, 60 years from now, it's really out there. Of course, there's other kinds of games like platforming, role-playing, air hockey, which you might be familiar with. Pinball, I haven't seen that in so long, it's getting ridiculous. Wonder what happened to it. You might also be noticing hours, 7 a.m. to midnight. Open. Guess you might want to go in there and play some of those games. Yeah, except you got platforms to hop around on and got a ticking clock right here. And it's already starting to get into the yellows after all that time. That really says something. Asian Gourmet took me a while to figure out how to do that one because Asian meals are almost alien to me because I don't know them very well. But there's actually 16 total right here, and instead of pricing per individual meal, I decided to simplify it. Small will cost you 120 igani, or you can go for a bigger meal that costs 400 igani. $8 for a meal is almost typical of what a restaurant is. So yeah, that's basically what it is. 4 ovens, which is kind of a little on the high end, but yep, still works the same. I just looked up various popular Asian meals and so forth to get all that. Crazy ladders. That one is one of my favorites. Woof! And there's actually a reason for that being there. If you look at it closely, doesn't it kind of resemble the shape of a dog? After all, when you look at it, here's the tail right in here, and here's a little face part with a little nose right here, a little sniffing device. Well, basically, the object of this is kind of themed on Platform Masters again. It figures I slipped. Pesky itch. You start from here, and you gotta climb up the ladder, except then it suddenly starts going off to the left, to the side. Kind of strange. Then it goes down, which is really nothing special, which ladders do that, obviously. But going off to the side like this again? You're just following an S-curve, and then... what's this diagonal all about? That's gotta be tricky. Now, how to go about doing that? Thinking. So as you follow along with this, you got more of these crazy diagonals, and you eventually reach the goal. You get a small prize just simply for finishing. You just have to finish in any amount of time. Even if it takes 2 hours, which is going to be a little ridiculous, you'll still get a small prize. You get 3 tries, and it's only 100 igani. Finishing wins the prize. Ain't that exciting? But if you go through it fast, much like Platform Masters revolves around, well, you win bigger prizes. You get a medium if you finish within 90 seconds. You get a large prize if you finish within 60 seconds, and an extra large prize if you finish within 45 seconds. Only the pros can bother getting to 45, and you can actually take shortcuts too, such as if you wanted to risk it, you can jump the almost 1 foot or whatever it is from here over to here. Of course, this is not hinted at, because nobody knows about it, but it is actually allowed. Of course, some shortcuts are just not really worth doing, though. Pizza stand. Well, you got your menu for your various pizza sizes, which goes well into the thousands of igani. I think it's like 1,200 igani for the extra large, which something like what was that? Trying to remember. I think it was a half a block or 16 coordinate units for the pizza. Yeah, that's a little over 2 feet. Actually, it ain't that big. It's 12 coordinate units for the extra large. I don't exactly remember. But you got your typical toppings right here, and they'll add on to that, about 10% to the base, basically. So if you want 2 toppings, they'll cost you 20% more than the base. 4 toppings, which is kind of along typical of Supremes or something, yeah, it'll be 40% more on the base. That's basically how it's based on. Kind of simple in a way. But you'll have all your classic toppings like pepperoni, anchovies, mushrooms, extra cheese even, peppers. You name it, you'll find it. Gotta have your ovens to cook those pizzas, though. Lollipops. You might remember that one from way out in the distance. Well, this one's pretty much about the same, except that it's a lot closer and you can really resolve a lot of details. I think this one's based on square coordinate units, but I'm not exactly sure. Nope, it's actually cubic coordinate units, because I can see 1/4, 1/2, and 1 cubic coordinate units in there. You know, 1/4 of a cubic coordinate unit. It's pretty small, but that is the small. Of course, there's also the prices on there too. All these, this over here, this is where the prices are. It's like an 80, a 120, or this is a 60, a 100, and like a 180 or something. I don't remember the exact system used. And here you got various other text. Can't quite tell what this is. Something about an extra dipping. It costs more Igani for a filling inside the lollipop, or a dipping into like chocolate or butterscotch or vanilla. You know, kind of get that general idea. And of course you got the same 7 flavors that you'll frequently see all over the place. Popcorn. Now ain't that a carnival classic? You can get 6 different kinds of flavors for that. Butter, extra butter, sugar, cheddar, pizza flavored. That's interesting. And I don't know what this one is, but I can see it starts with a C. Oh well, a small costs 25 Igani, a medium is 45 Igani, and a large is 80 Igani. It's doubling in size basically all the way through, so yeah, you're always still getting that discount. This is the cheddar flavored butter popcorn maker. This is the extra butter one. This is light butter. Rifle Stars, Platform Master's only reference to guns. All you do is you pay 100 Igani and you get this 100 or 200 pack of ammunition, little tiny pellets. You get a little gun that you shoot out a little star-shaped target right in here, and if you can trace out the star or cut it out, you win a prize. Cut the star to win a prize. That's all you gotta do. And of course you got a little backing out here to block the pellets from going through and out there, because you definitely don't want to be hitting anyone. And of course it's reinforced several times over. It's just more like a small, cheap, weak gun, basically. 300 mile an hour. It's kind of like a paintball in a sense. Although, not even that strong. More like a BB gun. Really weak. Fried chicken. Well, this is kind of a carnival classic in a way. It's kind of a standard. You can get chicken wings for 90 Igani, thighs for 80 Igani, a breast for 100 Igani, or you can also have an add-on for making it breaded for 10 more Igani. And not to mention your normal ovens. Caramel apples. Well, this one's kind of a carnival classic in a way too. You can have it dipped in caramel, butterscotch, or chocolate. A single dip will cost you 60 Igani. A double dip will cost you 100 Igani. You cannot mix flavors, as in you can't dip it in caramel for one and chocolate for the second. It has to be both caramel or both chocolate. No differences. The tattoo parlor is also a classic carnival as well. Carnival stand, that is. They have 1,250 unique designs and more. Because you can also bring your own custom-made one too if you wanted, which is really something. Hey, 60 years from now, who knows what can be present? After all, as I design platform masters, I try to envision the future. A small tattoo, which is only like a quarter of a square coordinate unit or something, will cost you 15 Igani. A large one, which is about 1 square coordinate unit, will cost you 40. You might be wondering, half going to 1 is only double. It's actually quadruple because it's square units. You got 2 axes dealing with, so it's actually 4 times bigger, meaning 60, but you're only paying 40 for the rough idea. Gone fishing. You might remember that stand from way out here. Yeah, this one's going again. You'll see that happen often enough. And, well, here you're given 150 Igani, and you fish for 1 minute. You catch to score points. Yeah, this might be a little different from what it was. Your various fish are scattered in a little tank right here, and from there you try to grab them. The higher scoring ones are rarer, and they're also much harder to catch because they tend to letting go. The small ones score more. They actually score a lot less, but they're so easy to catch it's almost effortless. But even then, if you don't get the hook in there just right, you're still not going to get it because it's not going to come out of the tank. But if you do catch some fish, you get 2 points for a small prize. You have to get that a little bit. A medium is 5, a large is 10, and an extra large is 20. That's basically how that works. Cinnamon rolls are kind of a classic in a way. You can buy a bun or a roll for 100 igani. A bun, which is a little bit smaller in size, is 90, or a twist, which is almost twice the size of this for volume and total mass, is 160 igani. Not to mention your ovens again, except those would have to be like your fast cooking ones, so they cook real fast. Yeah, 60 years from now they might be cooking cinnamon rolls in like 5 minutes instead of 20 or 30. Now this is a definite Carnival classic. What is it? It's Powerhouse. You pay 50 igani and you get a hammer. What you're supposed to do is you swing the hammer to hit this right here. And the harder you hit it, the more voltage is registered on this, or something like that, and the higher this goes. The more lights that light up, and they actually remain constant, so the user the one that's operating that, can give you the prize based on it. The prizes are not noticed. Notice that there's a house up there. It'll actually light up if it's all the way up, but you don't see that because the lights don't go up high enough. And if you look real closely here, you can actually see how there's other lights on there, but it's kind of hard to see them. You can see a little better right there. Yeah, duck. Nope, it just ain't gonna work. Noodle Factory is basically a place where you get all kinds of noodle-based meals. Macaroni and cheese is pretty an obvious one. There's also spaghetti in there, lasagna, and various other kinds of typical meals that involve noodles. Not to mention your ovens again, which of this case is probably boiling water, quick boils and stuff, pressure cooking even, which really speeds things up. You get a small meal and you get a large meal for meal size. That's basically all there is to that stand. Jumbo Popsicles is another Carnival classic. You get big popsicles. For this, let's see, this is a half coordinate unit, or half cubic coordinate unit, which is your small size. That's costing 60 igani. Your large is 1 cubic coordinate unit, and that'll be 100 igani. And then of course you got your jumbo, which is 4 cubic coordinate units. Oh boy, that's way bigger. And it's going to cost you 350. I bet you your 6-year-old's really going to love getting one of these. They'll be craving for it like crazy. But $7 for a single popsicle? That's really something. But then again, it lasts so long because it's so big. Giant pretzels. This stand is basically revolving around those giant pretzels that you often find in certain places. And 1 block length. What does that mean? Well, 1 block is, well, if you remember that, the height of the typical platforms. If I remember, this is also the same height of 1 block. So that also gives you the idea. Now if you were to have that stretched out in one straight line, then you'd curl it around in that pretzel shape or something like that, with the 3 sections, you know. Well, that's basically what that would be. That's how big the pretzel will be. It's well over 1 foot wide. It's like, I don't exactly know, but it's something like 18 inches. I changed that from the 5 feet because feet is not used in this game. It's blocks and coordinate units mainly. And not to mention kiloblocks for your long-range travel between cities. Fortune teller. This stand was way out here and it was a tent, but a tent and all when you got everything else is buildings and stands, that don't fit in. But here you might be noticing closed, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. You might remember that one other stand, or it was open, the video game or parlor. Let's see, where was that? Oh boy, I really went far. But yeah, here you can see it's open and it closes at midnight. But over here, where is it? It's 10 and it's closed. Kind of gives you an idea on what time of day it is. And the stars out here can also gives you a hint too. So that might be another clue as to when this particular event takes place in the game's story. Well, this will cost you 1,500 Igani to do various kinds of fortune-telling kind of things like tarot cards, palm reading, crystal ball, crystallomancy, and psychic mediums, things like that. And, if you want that kind of stuff, you can go there, no problem. Not to mention I Ching, you might remember that. Hot dogs. Now, what's a ball doing way up here? Kind of funny. Well, this is pretty much the exact same thing as the corn dogs, except for it's just plain old-fashioned hot dogs, no steak, no nothing. It's just hot dogs only. The regular costs 90 Igani, and the quarter block, which is twice as big as the regular, is 150 Igani. Pretty much exact same thing as before. Burgerland is, well, a bunch of burger-related stuff. You can get cheeseburgers, you can get regular hamburgers, you can get all kinds of various things, but there's more than just cheeseburgers and hamburgers. It's also kind of like your fast food kind of stuff in a way, too. They're like your French fries and baked potato, chicken nuggets. Think of a typical fast food restaurant like McDonald's, Burger King, and Hardee's, and various other things like those. And that's basically kind of what it's based on, and to some extent. Just designed for Platform Master's differences. Of course, it costs, I think that's 80 Igani for regular. But it's kind of hard to read that because it's so tiny. But hey, everything is actually realistically to scale. That's why Platform Masters is the way it is. Everything is realistically to scale. And the last stand of them all, tacos. All this is soft, hard tortilla for your shell types that you want to put your tacos in. Got your single for 90 Igani, or your double for 150 Igani. Double meaning you get 2 tacos in one order instead of just one. So if you buy 2, you actually save a little bit, 30 Igani, which is 60 cents. It don't seem like much, but it is the general idea. So that otherwise concludes all the various stands. So which one of these is your favorites? One of my favorites happens to be this, ball from ball toss aside. And let's see, I like the shadowing that I done on this one here, up here. I love the way this one came out for the shadowing. This one here is just downright funny. This one's kind of nice in a way, kind of interesting designs. This one came out quite a little bit better than what it was. I like the information center. This one's kind of pretty. All those Spectrum related stuff. The video arcade you're probably very familiar with, which has been changed from a 4-story tall building. Asian gourmets, there's really nothing different there. Crazy ladders, this one's kind of funny. Yeah, this has got quite a bit of humor to it. Pizza, lollipops, popcorn mania, rifle star. I love those stars. I actually took them off another source that I've done, one of my earlier projects that's now considered abandoned. That's the Supernatural Olympics, version 3. It's abandoned because Platform Masters took over and it's so much better. Anyway. Caramel apple. Let's see, what other ones are there? I kind of like the way this one came out, although it's really nothing different. I had to significantly shorten it so I can get it everywhere else without shortening things. Jumbo popsicle. Let's see. Some of these took a long time for me to figure out. I love this ball on top of here. That's kind of funny. This one's really pretty in a way. Let's see. I'm looped back again. It repeats every 6144 coordinate units. In case you're wondering, that's 3/16 of a kiloblock. Yeah, silly units in a way. This one here is the one that took the longest time for me to figure out how to do. So you might be wondering what it's like to otherwise glide over things like Carnivalestas, bricks and buildings and stuff. Well, this is basically what it would be like, to some extent. Picking up speed ever so much faster. They really put a lot of detail and work into this, don't you think? The 24 scales are going faster than 1s now. Of course, then I crashed into that, which is really nothing special. And that pretty much is the main part for the lower area. All that part's already covered. The cars are there. Yeah, yep, that is the train going by. Air taxis, you'll find a lot of those. That's nothing new. Little lights in the front so they can see where they're going. Because, well, everything is not exactly, let's see. Everything is pretty much automated, but sometimes there can be an emergency that tells otherwise, where they have to be under human control. What am I doing? I'm trying to show you those clouds in a much better, different way. If you're watching all those stands going by, and wouldn't you know it? Here he's in the clouds. You can actually see how the clouds up here kind of hide the stars. They're kind of slow flowing because it's a really nice, peaceful day. Or night, I should say. Of course, get up a little higher, you can actually see how the clouds look like from here. Kind of really pretty in a way. It's kind of a serene scene. There is actually a world that does take place in the clouds on a normal, regular basis. And that's Nodera Highlands, World 16. You don't actually see that. So what about the underside of the clouds? Man, waiting for the bouncing to stop. Here you can actually kind of see hints of that as to what that's like. An air taxi going by. The higher the air taxis go, the faster they go. You might have also noticed the higher density of air taxis. So, here's these clouds basically. So what else is there to cover? Well, there really ain't that much left. That was interesting. Bouncy, bouncy. I'm bouncing off everything. Ain't that interesting? They didn't have to wait for so long either. Yeah, too early. And just to show you something, you might remember that sky darkening effect, right? And how the sky gets darker and darker with extreme height. Well, that same thing takes place in Carnivalesta just the same. Except it's not really getting darker that much. That's simply because it's already super dark to begin with. But compared to ground level, it starts off really kind of a little brighter, especially out in here where you can actually see the glow from the sky. But as I go up and up more, this glow right in here gets more and more difficult to see, and the stars become a lot more sharp. They get a lot sharper. Watching everything going by, like Hersiak in the distance here. I love that sky glow effect around it. That came out really nice. Did I just see an air taxi? No. There aren't any at 3 kiloblocks. What was that just went by there? That was a platform. It's at upper testing grounds. This is the first world. Here we go. Here's the air taxis at the... You might notice that they're actually going faster than the ground level ones, or the ones that were lower. But the higher up yet, they'll get darker yet. So, this is basically still short of the elevation of Mount Everest, but you can actually see these are actually pretty much maxed out for height. Yeah, you can start noticing some differences, especially this star right here, which was kind of blocked by mountains as well. But Carnivalesta is the game's very first world in which you'll see the stars on a regular basis. Of course, the higher up air taxis are much less dense, so they're harder to spot, but they still go up much, much higher yet. How much higher? Well, I'm not even halfway to the absolute limit. Yeah, not even halfway. Notice that this thing's still going up. That's because I calibrated it so that it goes all the way up to the point where the sky reaches maximum darkness. In case you're wondering on that. So it's going to go up for a million feet, basically. Yep, there should have been some other air taxis that I just passed, but I didn't see them because they're too far away. They're too sparsely dense. Well, I guess I should pretty much conclude this long video. You can actually see the trace of the sky dome right here. A little better now. One thing that I do want you to note is that, well, what was I thinking of? Don't you hate that when you think of something and you forget about it? Well, I want to show you those supersonic air taxis in a different view. But I need a more controlled jump and stuff like that. But yeah, there's definitely supersonic air taxis. Except I need to go up so much. I'm only barely 3/4 of the way there. Got a big gap right here. You can see the mountains way down here. That's the one thing about Platform Masters. The limits on it are just so extreme and mind-boggling that, well, it sets it apart from pretty much every other game that there is. And especially for a 2D platformer where you normally only have like 2,000 pixels up and down to deal with, this goes way beyond that. And I mean way beyond. Should be getting pretty close, but I still can't really confirm it. You might be noticing here that the sky is also getting a little different as well. It's a lot sharper up in this area here compared to what it was at the ground level. Still going up, I know. 524,288, and that's 2 to the 19th in case you're wondering. I memorize all powers of 2 from -7 to 21. I also memorize step 24 as 16,777,216. Yep, still not quite there yet, but I'm getting close. You should probably almost start seeing them right now. I think I overshot my jump point. Yep, I did. So I'm going to let them drop down a little bit. It's 524,288 is what I'm looking for. I can speed them up while I'm at it. Don't exactly know where they're going to be. We'll just max that. Now they should be pretty close to the horizon. Right there. There's the supersonic air taxi going by. It's very difficult to see with the light glare and stuff like that going on, but yeah, you can definitely see all kinds of air taxis up here. There's another one going by so fast. Of course, I'm going 800 miles an hour toward them, so that's going to speed things up. Come on, air taxi, where are you? Oh well, it's not really important anyway. So, I'm going to conclude this video with, yeah, I think you can probably figure it out, a super fast fall. This video was created by Ulillillia. Thank you for watching. And did you just see that air taxi going by? Interesting timing, wouldn't you think? And yes, the speed is actually realistically to scale. Now watch the sky getting a little bit better as far as visibility goes. And I'm not going to hit in time, but watching everything going by so fast you don't even know what's coming.